In the last lecture, we started with the concept of abstract data types. We have seen what is the importance of ADT. We have seen already what is the importance of ADT and how these particular ADTs are going to be built. In order to build these ADTs, what are the things that we are supposed to write, such as uh, the preconditions, post conditions, verifications, and all these things. And also, in summary, we can say that this abstract data types will always give us the information about what to define, but not how to define. So, as part of this, we have seen in the last video that a generic abstract data type to be built, that is the representation of stack, also we have seen in the last video. In this lecture, I am going to discuss the important topic in any algorithm design, which is called asymptotic notations. So before moving on to the asymptotic notations, I would like to start this discussion with a simple example. Assume that there are two stations A and B. There are two stations A and B, and there is an electric engine, which is supposed to start from station A, and it has to move to station B. Okay, there are two stations, station A and station B, and there is an electric engine which is available at station A, and it has to move from station A to station B. Now the question is, what are the essential things that that are required to perform this particular task? What are the important things that required to perform this task? So the task that I have given is move the engine from station A to station B. This is the task I have given. So in order to do this task, what are the essential things that are required? So you people may say, first one is electricity. So without electricity, this engine cannot move. Second one is track, that is the railway track, whatever it may be. Next is driver or loco pilot. Next is, what are the other things required? Signaling system. Next, any other things required? Next one is so any other thing? Yes. So majorly these are the things. Next is signaling system. Next is signaling system from the railway station. That means maybe station master required to give some, what is the signal to be given. So these kind of things are required in order to move the station engine from station A to station B. And at the same time, among all these things, without two components, nothing will happen. One is the electricity, another is driver or loco pilot. So without these two components, the engine cannot be moved from station A to station B. So anyhow, assume that a track is by default, signaling systems are there, and station master is also there. So unless until there is no signaling system and track, you cannot move the train. There is a basic entities that are required. So this electricity, we can also say this is a resource. So that engine may be using the electricity as a resource, so that reason electricity is required. If that engine is using coal as the resource, resource may be coal, and if the engine may be using diesel, then the diesel may be the resource. However, in our case, the electricity is the resource. Next one is the driver. Driver means what he will do is he will schedule the tasks, or schedule the jobs. So what sort of jobs he will schedule? The jobs may be like this: observing the signals, observing the signals. Next is checking the engine. Next, noting the power status. Next, any other thing, blowing the horn. Next, moving the train. That means this driver will schedule the jobs, such as observing the signals, checking the engine, okay, noting the noting the power status, blowing the horn, moving the train. These are the things. So there may be any many other jobs along with this one. These are the, for example, we have discussed it here. So the driver is more responsible for doing all these jobs. Unless until all these jobs are successfully done, the required task, the task that I have given is moving the engine from station A to station B cannot be completed. So this is in general in our real world situation that what we are going to see regularly. But if I have mapped the same to the computer science field, and especially for our computer science and programming part, so this electricity is the resource in case of the electric train, but in case of computer science, in CS, we can say this as memory. That means without memory, your computer cannot run. So here memory means here random access memory, RAM memory. That means whenever from your computer, just you think of that from your computer, you pick up, remove the RAM and try to start the computer. Will it run? No, it cannot run. So without RAM, your computer cannot run. That means in the same way, without electricity, your computer, or without electricity, your this electric engine cannot move. In the same way, without RAM, the computer cannot run. Next one is driver. Here, driver means is the one in our computer terminology is said to be CPU. That is central processing unit. So this central processing unit is responsible for scheduling the jobs. Scheduling the jobs. So without this RAM and without this CPU, your computer cannot work. So in order to perform any task, okay, on your computer, you must have this particular CPU and memory. So here the task may be in our computer science, it may be executing a program. Okay. So in order to execute a program, it may be required RAM and CPU. So here a program means again we can say a program is equal to algorithm plus data structure. So any program consisting of two parts, one is algorithm, another is data structure. Unless until this algorithm and data structures are perfectly managed, your program cannot be completed correctly. And whenever this program is completed, and in order to execute this program, you require two things. One is RAM and another is CPU. So the CPU is responsible for scheduling the jobs, and RAM is responsible for holding the data structure. So whatever the stack data structure, single linked list data structure, double linked list data structures, whatever the data structures we have seen so far are required with required or maybe created in memory and to be manipulated in memory only. That is the reason we have considered these data structures in two forms. One is a static memory allocation another is dynamic memory allocation. So, and in a broader way, if you look at task, that means the moving of an engine from station A to station B or executing of a program. Okay, this is the majorly task name. Here, in order to move this engine, unless until driver won't perform these operations, it cannot be done. So that is the reason these are the operations that can be completed within a finite period or finite time. So that is the reason we'll call this small work is as a job. So that means we can say that a task is a set of jobs. A task is a set of jobs, and a job is a small work that can be completed in finite amount of time. So a task is a set of jobs, and a job is a small work that can be completed in finite amount of time. In the same way, our program is also called as is also have algorithm and a data structure. And this algorithm is also a set of instructions. And every instruction can be executed in finite amount of time. So that means if the statement is of a straight statement or maybe a single line statement, that may be executed within finite amount of time. And if the statements are there in the loop, then that will be executed for that many number of times. So based upon the instruction type and instruction length, instruction complexity, the amount of time required for execution of the instruction will take place. So that is the reason, if you can observe closely, a task is set of jobs and job is small work that can be completed in a finite amount of time. So in the same way for our program also, we need to have the designing of the correct algorithm, that is optimal algorithm with optimal data structure. Thereby, these two optimalities will give our program execution in optimal way. So why you are calling it as optimal way? That means we need to use lowest memory as possible, and we need to use the CPU in best possible way so that the given program must be executed within finite amount of time. Okay, so whenever the program is going to be executed or any algorithm that is to be executed in finite amount of time are said to be deterministic algorithms. So that means deterministic algorithms means here the algorithm will execute in finite amount of time and thereby you will get the output. This is what thing called deterministic algorithms. And there are algorithms, some other algorithms called as probabilistic algorithms, which are said to be uh, are randomized algorithms, which are not deterministic in nature. However, they are completely random. You cannot predict whether the output will get or not. So whatever the algorithms that we are going to see in our syllabus are most of the things are deterministic algorithms. That means if you can write like this, check whether the stack is full or not. If the stack is not full, insert the element into the stack and remove the element from the stack. This is the algorithm which is a step-by-step execution, which can be done or completed within a finite amount of time. So which is very deterministic in nature. And not only this one, we'll also see some more algorithms in the next coming lectures, where we'll also have a particular task and we'll try to divide the task so that within finite amount of time that particular program should complete and the output has to get. The best example is sorting of a list of elements. Sorting means arranging the elements either in the ascending order or descending order. So this ascending order and descending order arrangement can be done within the finite amount of time or within the finite amount of steps. So these are the some algorithms that we'll see, and we will also see various algorithm categories. That means algorithm solving categories. Okay, in the deterministic way, and how these particular algorithm behaves with respect to the characteristics of taking the input, processing the input, and dividing the processing steps and execution steps. Finally, how the output can be got. So all these things we'll see in the next lectures. So for the current lecture, I am going to discuss the asymptotic complexity. Asymptotic means here nowadays the RAM, if you look at a RAM of 4 GB or DDR4 RAM or DDR3 RAM of 4 GB or 8 GB, you may get this particular RAM within either 3000 rupees or 4000 rupees. Okay, but where in case of CPU, latest i10 processor or i9 processors, that you may get in 42,000 rupees or 50,000 rupees. So uh, here the CPU is becoming faster. That is execution of the CPU, that is the capability of the CPU is becoming is increasing day by day. But even though the CPU is very fast, but not infinitely fast. Okay, and even though memory is cheap but not free, that is the reason we are supposed to take care of the memory and CPU uh, when we are designing the algorithms. So that means whenever that algorithm is going to execute, that algorithm must use lowest memory as possible and better CPU as possible, so that the program can be executed in an efficient way. So how can we determine whether the algorithm can algorithm is using the lower memory and better CPU? That will be that will be handled, or that will be measured using asymptotic complexities. So in this we will be having two categories. One is time complexity. Next one is space complexity. So here time complexity means the amount of CPU time that is required for execution of the algorithm. So the time complexity means the amount of CPU time required for completion of the algorithm. Okay. Next one is the space complexity. The space complexity deals with the memory. The name is telling you that how much space is required, the amount of memory space required for completion of algo. So in this way, the time complexity and space complexity are going to be defined for every algorithm or for every program that you write, so that the space and time complexity must be low as possible, so that we can say the algorithm is efficiently designed. So now we'll start with the algorithmic complexity, that is asymptotic notations. In order to understand the asymptotic notations first of all we need to go through the how the algorithm algorithm complexity will be decided based upon the statements, based upon the programming constructs that are present in this algorithm or program. For example, first we'll start with the pseudocode conventions. So there will be very many other many pseudocode conventions will be there, such as writing the pseudocode in the natural language or by using flowcharts, by by pseudocode, which is representing the C or Pascal code, that kind of thing. So whenever we write like this, whenever we write any algorithm like this, so a method of determining the step count of an algorithm is to build a table in which we list the total number of steps contributed by each statement. This figure is often arrived by first determining the number of steps per execution. So what is this? How many number of steps that will take for executing a particular programming construct? That we need to calculate first. The steps per execution of a statement is the amount by which the count changes as a result of the execution of the statement. By combining these two quantities, the total contribution of each statement is obtained. For example, consider the algorithm. Sum of, here A means an array and n is the size of the array. Currently, s is equal to 0, that is sum is equal to 0 initialized. For I is equal to 1 to n, do s is equal to s plus a of I. That means here this algorithm is for printing the sum of elements of an array. For that, initially the sum value is equal to 0. For I is equal to 1 to n, do s is equal to s plus a of I. Once all elements are added, then the final sum will be returned from this particular algorithm. This is what the algorithm is. Now we will write this one. Steps for execution. For example, the compiler is coming to this particular statement, and how many steps it will take to execute. So this is the algorithm definition. So it won't take any step to execute. It is 0. Okay, 0 steps will take execution. Next, it will come to the next statement. S is equal to 0. It will take only one step for execution. That means assignment operator. 0 is assigned to S. Next is for I is equal to 1 to n, do. So whenever the compiler comes to here, within one step it will execute. So one step it will execute. Next is this individually s is equal to s plus a of I. This particular statement will also execute in one go, and return s will also execute in one go. And bracket close, there is nothing to specify in the bracket close. So that reason the steps for execution is 0. How many times this step for execution will take place? That is what called frequency. So here the algorithm definition or function definition will execute only for once. So that is the reason there is no frequency. Where in case of s is equal to 0, here it is an assignment operator. It will be executed in one go, and it has only one time to execute. So the reason the frequency is 1. Next is for I is equal to 1 to n, do. This is of one go. It will execute, but this will execute for n times, because for I is equal to 1 to n. That means for I is equal to 1 time it will execute. For I is equal to 2, it will execute second time. For I is equal to 3, it will execute for third time. For I is equal to 4, it will execute for fourth time. Like that, for I is equal to n, the execution go on. So that reason, since for one go it is having the one time execution, but for n number of inputs, so it will go for the frequency of n plus 1. Okay, it will go for n plus 1 frequency. Next is s is equal to s plus a of I. So since this particular statement is attached to the loop which will run n times, so the frequency is n. Then here return s. The whatever the sum what we got will be executed only for once, and the frequency is also only once. But only the frequency in the entire the algorithm is having the frequency is more frequency is there for the for and this one, the inner statement. So that is reason here n plus 1 and n remaining and are having the frequency 1 only. So when we have this statements for execution and the frequency, just you take the total number of steps for this. So here there is no total number of steps, and for s is equal to 0, 1 step. For I is equal to 1 to n plus 1 steps, total steps required for execution. And s is equal to s plus a of I, it require n steps for execution. And return statement, it is also having one step for execution. Now if you add these total steps, 1 plus n plus 1 plus 1, so which are all these things will become 2n plus 3. That means total number of steps that are required for execution of this particular statement is 2n plus 3. Now, even though this is 2n plus 3, 3 is a constant. We can ignore this because 3 is not a big task for execution. And 2n, this is the thing what we are supposed to consider. The reason is here n is the one which will determine this particular complexity. The reason is, if the n is infinitely long, or for example, if here n is 10, then it is not a big problem, which within 10 steps it will execute. But if n is infinitely long or sufficiently large, say it may be 10,000 or 1 lakh or maybe 10 lakhs, then the entire algorithm will get affected. That means totally depending upon the input size that are given to the algorithm. If the input size is too long or too large, then the algorithm complexity increases. That means the CPU has to execute 2 into that many inputs plus 3. That means 2 into that many inputs in the sense that many times that particular CPU has to execute the statement. As the CPU is spending more time in executing the statements, obviously the more time complexity it is. So this is the way how the time complexity will be determined. So that is the reason usually in time complexities, constant values will be ignored. Only the input related values. Sometimes the input related values may be a plain n, or the input related values may be n square, sometimes n cube, sometimes log n, sometimes maybe any other variation of n may be present. So that is the reason always we'll give the importance to this n value, that is the number of inputs. So based on the number of inputs, we will be having the categories such as best case, average case, and worst case. So the three cases will be there in the execution. One is best case, second one is average case, and third one is worst case. So in the best case, what are the number of steps that are required for execution? In the average case, what are the number of steps that are required for execution? And in the worst case, what are the number of steps that are required for execution? So here, best case in the sense, we know that all elements are very fine, only very few things need to be changed. Or if you consider a program such as sorting, sorting means arranging the elements either in the ascending order or descending order. Consider we are considering an ascending order sorting in which we have around 100 elements. If all these 100 elements are almost all in the unsorted manner, almost all these 100 elements are there in the unsorted manner. That means it is the worst case. In the worst case, that means we are going to say it as a worst case. The reason is almost all elements are in unsorted order. That means, for example, if you have that means if you have the elements like 1 to 100, in which you may be having different elements, and first 10 elements are in almost in sorted order. Next 80 elements are in completely unsorted order, and last 10 elements are in sorted order, almost in sorted order. Then it's at the average case. That means some of the elements are in sorted order. We no need to do much effort to perform sorting. Only we need to focus on the 70% of the elements or 60% of the elements which are in unsorted order. Then easily remaining other things can be in sorted order. So if you do like this, then it is said to be if the input is like this, then this is said to be an average case. Okay. In the best case, in the sense, best case means only 30 elements or 30 or 40 elements are in unsorted order. Remaining all elements are in almost in sorted order. In such a cases, the effort required for performing sorting is very low. So that reason the input set is in best case. Okay. I hope by this time you come to know, depending upon the input values, you can determine the best case, average case, and worst case. Whatever it may be, we always consider the average case and worst case into consideration. Anyhow, the best case will be most frequently will not occur, but usually we'll mainly focus on the average and the worst cases. That means depending upon the input types that are available, that are given to the program, based on that we'll determine what could be the time complexity. That means what is the amount of time that CPU has to spend with those inputs, if they have provided in an average way, if they have provided in a worst way, and if they have provided in the best way. Okay. So this is the way we need to calculate the total number of steps and the type of input that you are providing. Based on these two, the time complexity will be determined. And one thing you remember, there is a special trade-off. There is a trade-off between the space complexity and the time complexity. If the time complexity is low, then the space complexity may be high. If the space complexity is low, then time complexity may be high. So that is the reason trading off between the space and time complexity is also very, very important. The reason is a program that may complete that may execute in finite number of steps may require large memory to occupy. It is a simple example is recursion. In the case of recursion, the entire thing or entire structure of the tree or entire structure of recursion calling will be maintained in the main memory only. But the program execution is very fast in case of recursion. The reason is that it is a repeated calling. But whenever the repeated calling is taken place, the link of the repeated calling will be stored in the main memory only. So the reason here space complexity increases. So recursion require large memory, but will execute very faster. So this is what the trade-off. So if you compromise time complexity, you need to go for that means if you want time complexity, then you need to compromise space complexity. If you want space complexity, sometimes you need to compromise the time complexity. But achieving the better trade-off between the space and time complexity is very, very difficult. It requires a better way of designing the algorithm so that you can maintain both space and time complexity. It is just like some of the applications in your mobile phone, which may require more memory, but which are very fast. If you don't have memory, then it requires higher processing capability CPUs to run. So this is just like this. It's a trade-off always. But designing an algorithm in efficient way that will be having equal balance of space and time complexity are very, very low. So, and it also requires a lot of expertise in designing such kind of algorithms. So these things, how to calculate and how to mention, will be as part of our asymptotic notations. Okay, we'll see one more example here. Algorithm. This one is recursive sum. So R sum of a comma n. Here it is an iterative, and here it is recursive. So if n less than or equal to 0, then 0 as written R sum of a comma n minus 1 plus a of n. So for this, the steps for execution is 1 plus x. Okay, and the frequency is, if n is equal to 0, the frequency is like this. If n is greater than 0, then the frequency is like this. Total number of steps are required 1 plus x. So here total 2 plus x. Okay, whenever the recursion is used, what happened? It became 2 plus x. Okay, but previously it is 2n plus 3. The same addition algorithm, but whenever it is changed to the recursion, came to plus x. But what happened is the space increased. The space is for every iteration, the size and need to be remembered in the memory. Then only it can add with the AFN. So this is the way how the memory growing is going to take place while keeping the time complexity lower. So that means with this example, you can come to know that if you are looking for time complexity, then sometimes you need to compromise the space complexity, and if you are looking for the space complexity to minimize, sometimes you need to compromise the time complexity. So this is the trade-off that you are supposed to think of. Next one is if you look at another statement like add. So here adding of two matrices A, B, C, and M is the size of the matrix A and N is the size of matrix B, like that, M into N, like that. For I is equal to 1 to M, so how many number of steps it will be happen? M plus 1 frequency, and J is equal to 1 to N, so M times of N plus 1, M times of N plus 1. For I is equal to 1, the J value, J loop will repeat from 1 to N, and for I is equal to 2, J loop will repeat from 1 to N. Like that for M times, M into N plus 1 times. Okay. And for each iteration, this particular C of I comma J is equal to A of Ij plus B of Ij. This statement will execute as M into N times. So the total number of steps are required 0, 0, here M plus 1 plus Mn plus M and Mn. Totally you get 2 into Mn plus 2M plus 1. So that means here the main thing is if M is large and N is also large, then the entire complexity is also large. That means the input M and N are long, very large numbers, then obviously the entire complexity is also large. So here the main thing that we need to take care of is the time complexity is whatever is the large one in the entire equation, that will be considered. If it is M square and if it is M, then M square will be considered. If it is M cube and M, then M cube will be considered. Whatever is the long is there, whatever is the large one is there, that will be considered as the complexity. The reason is obviously our computers are having the multiple CPUs. That means your CPU will be consist of 2 cores or 3 cores or 4 cores, not 3, 2 cores, 4 cores, or 6 cores, or maybe 8 cores. So that means each and every core will do some its own independent tasks. That is the reason. Whatever is the maximum time that will be considered as time complexity of the thing. So in the same way here, in order to perform a task like a small game need to be played by many by players. Say for example, there are 4 players. In order to complete a task, one person will take 2 minutes, another person may take 1 minute, another person may take 6 minutes, another person may take half minute. But you are supposed to wait till 6 minutes to complete the entire work. So the same way here also, whatever is the biggest one or whatever is the largest one, that will be considered as the time complexity. Even though this 2m can be completed less than 2mn, but the time complexity here we are going to consider as mn. So that means you are, irrespective of the statements or maybe complexity or whatever it may be, the entire program has to wait for a maximum of m into n times or m into n seconds or maybe units of time for execution of the entire algorithm. So the reason we'll consider the maximum one as the complexity. So we can execute we can execute the things based upon the difficulty of each and every statement and complexity of every statement, and the complexity is again calculated based upon the maximum value that will be resulted with the given m and n input sizes. So in this, as I told you just now, the best step count is the minimum number of steps that can be executed for the given parameters. And the worst case step count is the maximum number of steps that can be executed for the given parameters. The average step count is the average number of steps executed on instances with the given parameters. So based upon the best steps, or best case, or worst case, and average case, the time complexity is determined. Irrespective of best, worst, and average case, what is the largest one is there, that will be considered as the time complexity. So if the best case is there, then the largest one will be lower, and obviously the lower is the one, lower is the resultant value. So thereby the time complexity is lower. In the same way, if it is larger, that means the resultant value is larger, then it may be in the worst case. So like that, the complexity will be determined. So usually, to analyze the algorithm means determining the amount of resources needed to execute. Efficiency or complexity of an algorithm is stated in terms of time complexity and space complexity. This is what the summary that what we have discussed so far. Time complexity of an algorithm is basically the running time of the program as a function of input size. If the input size is too large and too disturbed, then it is worst case. If the input size is large but not disturbed, it's an averagely disturbed, then it's said to be average case. And input size is large and the input is almost in normal way, then it is said to be best case. Next, similarly, the space complexity of an algorithm is the amount of computer memory required during the program execution. That means that how much memory is required for program execution as a function of input size. If you, that means in the case of single linked list example, you consider if you have the single linked list, or you have created a single linked list of 100 elements. That means how much memory is required for the single linked list? Obviously, 100 into the size of every node. That much memory is required. Okay, and I want to access the last node in the single linked list. Then I need to traverse till the last node. That means how many nodes I need to traverse? I need to traverse till nth node. That means for I is equal to 1 to n node. That means the complexity, the time complexity is n. That means I need to traverse n elements, then or n nodes, then only I can reach the nth node. So the reason for I is equal to 1 to n, traverse each and every node, then you reach the nth node at the end. So this is what the time complexity is. Time complexity is n here, and space complexity is n into size of node. This is what the space and time complexity means. So time and space complexity of algorithm. Time complexity of an algorithm depending upon the number of instructions executed. The number is primarily depend on the size of the program's input and algorithm used. So far whatever we have discussed is summarized here. The space needed by the program depending upon. These are the two factors that on which this space requirement is calculated. Fixed part includes space needed for storing the instructions, constants, variables, and structured variables. So based upon these things, the space required is going to be calculated. And variable part, this is the fixed part. First one is fixed part. So if you declare a variable or if you initialize a variable, all these things are fixed parts. Variable parts means dynamic in nature, like space needed for recursion stack and for structured variables that are allocated space dynamically, like with the help of malloc or clloc functions during the running of the program. So based on this, the space and time complexity is going to be defined. Next, calculating the algorithm efficiency. The efficiency of an algorithm is expressed in terms of the number of elements that has to be processed. So if n is the number of elements, the efficiency can be stated as efficiency is equal to f of n. In this case, in the previous case, what is the efficiency of algorithm here? The efficiency of algorithm is f of mn. Here, what is the efficiency of algorithm? Here, f of x. Here, what is the efficiency of algorithm? F of n. So like that, we'll calculate the efficiency of algorithm, or we'll represent the efficiency of the algorithm. If a function is linear without any loops or recursion, the efficiency of the algorithm or the running time of the algorithm can be given as the number of instructions it contains. That means if there is no loop, or for example, in this case, there is no loop, in this no loop, then obviously we don't need to go for n plus 1 occurrences or frequencies. Only thing is 1 plus n, sorry, 1 plus 1, that is the 2. This is the constant time complexity that we will achieve. But when you have the loops and recursive statements, then the time complexity will vary. So the same thing was mentioned here. If a function is linear without any loops or recursion, the efficiency of the algorithm or running time of the algorithm can be given as the number of instructions it contains. If an algorithm contains certain loops or recursive functions, then its efficiency may vary depending upon the number of loops and running time of each loop in the algorithm. So this is what the generally time complexity and how the time complexity is determined, and we'll discuss what are the notations that can be used for representing this time complexity in the next lecture.